Welcome back to the Voice of College Football USC channel. Glad to have you here again for another episode of Trojans Talk on Tap. I'm your host, Rick Anaya, and I'm here to keep your glass full of the latest buzz on USC football. I'm going to talk a little bit what happened in the Pac-12 last Friday, and I've got a quality craft beer to recommend for your upcoming tailgate against the Stanford Cardinal. Kickoff at the Coliseum, 7:30 Pacific, Saturday night on Fox TV. No longer the Pac-12 network, so great to have the game on Fox. What a week it was, Trojans. We got a victory against Nevada, 66-14, 2-0, and moving on. Before we get started, I'm going to get into Lincoln Riley, episode 5 here, Trojans Talk on Tap. It's the boss, Lincoln Riley, developing a winning culture. Last week, I had the fortunate opportunity to interview former running back Sonny Bird. He was recruited by Paul Hackett, but played on Pete Carroll's first two teams in 2001, 2002. His career capped off with a touchdown, the last touchdown in the 2003 Orange Bowl. That was the Orange Bowl with Carson Palmer. And that was his Heisman Trophy year. We had a surprise guest, John Walker, join us. He was also part of those teams. It was also on a national championship team that beat Oklahoma 55-19. I think we got it right there behind my head. So if you haven't checked that out, check out Trojans Talk on Tap, interview with Sonny Bird, because that lays the foundation kind of for what I'm going to talk to today. Make sure to like and subscribe, hit the bell notification button so you get all the latest content from the Voice of College Football USC channel and my next episodes of Trojans Talk on Tap. In that episode, they talked about how they had to change the culture from Paul Hackett's culture, and Pete Carroll had that challenge of creating a new culture within the team. Not only the changing the culture from those previous players from the previous regime, but also you had the dynamic of players from different neighborhoods, different backgrounds and challenges. And it's one thing to sit here and talk about players' mistakes in the first two games against Nevada and San Jose State. It's another thing to actually get the players to move forward, learn from those mistakes, and grow. And so I can't express more, how those stories unfold. There's some stories that unfold in that interview that are very enlightening. And there was challenges that was faced by Pete Carroll's second year. And so that team needed to develop its offensive identity under Carson Palmer. Their challenge was their first 5 games of the year, 3 of them were on the road. And those 3 teams that they were playing were all ranked in the top 25 at the time. And that was against Colorado, Kansas State, and Washington State. USC ended up winning one of those road games. They lost 2 of them in close fashion, losing at Kansas State 27-20, and then losing up at Pullman and Washington State. Jason Gesser, it's a Mike Price coach team. They lost in overtime 30-27, but they grew as a team. And they were beginning to change the culture and trust each other. And the offense was emerging. And they had some new players to provide additional dynamic identity in the offense. And it was Mike Williams. People remember Mike Williams, great tall wide receiver. And then you had the development of the running game with getting back a healthy Malifo McKenzie, Sultan McCullough, and the emergence of Justin Fargas, who was a transfer who couldn't play the previous year due to transfer rules. So why am I telling you this, Trojans? Because right now, Lincoln Riley is in his second year, but the dynamic is different. The offense is stout. We know that. It's the defense that's going to need time to develop. And the Trojans are fortunate because the first 5 games that we have here, the first 3 games are at home, including Stanford this coming Saturday. Then there's a bye week. You got a road game at ASU and then a road game at Colorado. Beginning of the year, it's totally manageable. Well, then you follow back with the 6th game at Arizona, University of Arizona at home. But now that 5th game is maybe a little bit different because Colorado went down to TCU and beat them 45-42, the number 17 team in the country. And Colorado's getting a lot of play. So that'll be a great test for USC in the 5th game. But the defense has to gel, and you have to intermingle the previous regimes, coaching regimes, players, and you have to cycle through now. This is a second year of recruiting and the transfer portal and finding out who can play and who cannot. And you got to develop that trust, that chemistry, eliminate the mistakes. And we've seen some mistakes against Nevada and against San Jose State. San Jose State gave up over 100 yards rushing, gave up a lot of chunk plays, 28 points to not a very good San Jose State team. An okay San Jose State team, but not fantastic. And then you move forward against Nevada. Nevada was 2-10 last year. They're not predicted to go anywhere. And you reduce the number of chunk plays, still some long pass plays, 2 70-yard completions, one going for a touchdown. But the running game, the defense against the run was a lot better. They didn't really have any chunk running plays and didn't have they didn't have anywhere close to 100 yards per rush. So that helped improve the defense from week 1 to week 2. One of the key plays that happened during that game was freshman Braylon Shelby coming around the blind side, strip sack, fumble in the air, returned 23 yards to the house by senior Stanley Taufo. And that was significant in many ways because you had a freshman who was recruited by Lincoln Riley, and you had a player in Stanley that was from the Helton era that was not recruited by Lincoln Riley. And teammates made a play, and then it accounted for a defensive score. And that was a highlight for the defense. Special teams is another area that USC is taking some criticism because Lincoln Riley doesn't have a special teams coach. But look at the first game of the year. We all knew Zach Branch. If you're a Trojan, you knew Zach Branch was going to be dynamic. And I expected him to run back a kickoff or a punt return sometime this year. But to do it in the first game, that was pretty dynamic. So that is a special teams plus. And then you get the transfer, all Pac-12 punter Eddie Zaplicki from ASU. So that should also improve the field position game. You have somebody that you trust out there. And then you have Dennis Lynch, the field goal kicker. They also brought on Tyler Robles. I believe he kicked the field goal against Nevada. So there's going to be some competition there. The best kicker is going to emerge. And that's what USC needs. We need upgrades, the field goal kicking game, the punting, and then obviously kickoff and punt returns. I think we got that with Zach Branch. That young man is a talent. So we're seeing improvements. USC is developing a lot of different players on both sides of the ball. We're going to just specify here on the defense and what I see and what I think are some signs of positive development. Looking at the first couple games, look at the defensive line. Through 2 games, 9.5 tackles for losses. You got Bear, Alexander, Solomon Byrd, Braylon Shelby, Dejon Benton. We got the killer bees, I guess you could say there. Jamil Muhammad and Elijah Hughes, totaling for 9.5 TFLs. You got additional depth with Kion Bars, Stanley Taufo, we just talked about, Jack Sullivan. Stanley had a great moment, and that's a testament to all of his hard work in the offseason, the weight program, and believing, keeping his mind and his heart in the game. The defensive line has 5 sacks out of the total of 6 for the team. Bird has 1.5, Bear with 0.5, Braylon with 1, Benton with 1, and Jamil Muhammad with 1. So spreading the sack love across the board there. The linebackers, this last game, Shane Lee and Rajon Davis played significant snaps. Mason Cobb and Eric Gentry were out with undisclosed injuries, and obviously Tackett Curtis was DQ'd in the first quarter for targeting. Trojans, last year, that would have been a huge issue because we didn't have the depth at the linebacker spot. So similar to the defensive line, working the transfer portal, working the high school recruiting, building up that depth along the defensive line. Same could be said for the linebackers. Shane Lee stood out with the Nevada game with 10 tackles, 1 sack, 1 TFL. Rajon Davis played 60 snaps and had 4 tackles. In the secondary, Jalen Smith has really developed the nickel position. At the nickel position last year, that was kind of a questionable position for us, especially with a team that featured a big tight end such as Utah, and what we're going to see from Stanford this week. Jalen Smith has 14 tackles and tackles for loss over the last 2 games. You got Kalen Bullock solid at the safety position with 9 tackles. At the other safety spot, you got a rotation of Bryson Shaw and Zion Branch. And in the corners, Max Williams, Damani Jackson, Sierra Wright, CRW, and Jacoby Covington. They are rotating and they are developing. Yes, there are some communication challenges, perhaps. There have been some long pass plays. Part of it's coaching. I think part of it is player development. But look for the USC Trojans to improve. The secondary defensive line has been a strength, so is the linebacker. And moving forward, there's opportunity to improve the chemistry and the performance. And USC honestly needs a top 40 defense. And that's what the USC is looking for. The offense is just phenomenal. One of the takeaways I have from the team is how many freshmen are getting involved on both sides of the ball. From the defensive standpoint, you got Tackett Curtis, you got Elijah Hughes that are showing out. On the offensive side of the ball, obviously, as mentioned before, Zachariah Branch. You're getting Jacoby Lane. Deuce Robinson had a 70-yard TD last game. You also have Quentin Joyner. Quentin Joyner busts off a 47-yard run. He shows his explosive talent. So those players, along with Makai Lemon, are getting playing run. They're getting rotation, reps, confidence. And speaking of explosive plays, USC, one of the challenges they have from the offensive side of the ball, believe it or not, to improve, is running explosive plays greater than 20 yards. And they had 4 of them against Nevada. Like I spoke, Quentin Joyner busted off that 47-yarder. You had Caleb Williams had a 46-yard scamper. And then you had Marshawn Lloyd with a few big plays as well. So USC is showing more of an explosive running game. Obviously, the passing game is elite. With I believe you have every 11 wide receivers has caught a pass in the first 2 games. So tell me what you think. Who is your favorite freshman? Put it down in the comments on both sides of the ball. Who's your favorite offensive player? Who's your favorite defensive player? Other freshmen that are getting play on the offensive side of the ball. Let's not forget Alani Noah and also Elijah Page. Elijah Page, big 6'7", 300-plus pound tackle out of Pinnacle High School in Arizona. And Quentin Joyner out of Texas, phenomenal running back. We're getting to see what he's all about. And so drop down in the comment who are the outstanding freshmen that you'd like to see on the offensive and defensive side of the ball. And I have USC being a top 40 defense at the end of the year in yards per play. Let me also know in the comments, where do you think USC is going to end up defensively? So let's talk about what happened in college football last Friday. Again, kind of another Black Friday. You had you had 2 of the last 4 members that were still in the Pac-12 announced that they were going to the ACC early morning Friday. Stanford and Cal joining SMU and joining the ACC. And reportedly, Cal and Stanford are going to earn about $20 million a year. They're going to be getting about 30% of the Tier 1 revenue, and then they get the full payout, 100% of the ACC network revenue, the NCAA tournament money, and the college football playoff money. They would be earning 70%, I think, in year 7 or year 8, and then 75% in year 8, actually. In year 9, they would be 100%, get 100% share of the Tier 1 money. SMU, on the other hand, is not going to make any money for the first 9 years. No Tier 1 revenue. Shows you how bad SMU wanted to be a part of a power conference. That program almost died some 40 years ago, as you recall. You may recall, you may not know. So the fact that they are saying, no, you don't need to pay us any money. They put all their chips on the table. I should say all of their oil money on the table, because they had an opportunity and you were going to agree to whatever they tell you. So luckily for SMU, they got a lot of big donors and a lot of oil money. So congratulations to those 3 who will be official members of the ACC. If you haven't seen it, my first episode was Black Friday. It was kind of detail what had happened on Friday, August 4th with Oregon and Washington. announcing they're going to the Big Ten, which caused Utah, Arizona State, and Arizona to join Colorado in going to the Big 12, and essentially creating uh, creating chaos and the demise of the Pac-12. So check that out also on Trojans Talk on Tap. And speaking of the Pac-12, actually had a phenomenal start. This is the last year, and the Pac-12 is going out with a bang. The quarterbacks from 1 to 12 are just phenomenal throughout the conference. And through the first 2 weeks, the Pac-12 is 13-0, the only conference to go undefeated, and they're winning their games by an average margin of almost 2 touchdowns, outscoring their opponents 46.5 to 19, going 13-0. So congratulations again to Colorado. That was a huge win. Washington destroying Boise State was another big win as well, and it looks to be a great year in the Pac-12. Those are going to be important wins as the Pac-12 moves forward. So congratulations to the Pac-12 going 13-0 so far. All right, the last part of this Trojans Talk on Tap is the quality craft beer recommend. Let's get into this week's craft beer recommend. Perhaps you can consider it for your Saturday tailgate against the Stanford Cardinal. And this beer is from Abnormal Brewing in San Diego. It is called Boss Pour IPA. 7% alcohol by volume. It is they call it a San Diego IPA. It's a West Coast IPA. This has been recorded on Tuesday, and it is Lincoln Riley's 40th birthday. So I thought it'd be appropriate for the boss to toast him with the Boss Pour IPA out of San Diego from Abnormal Brewing, because what you're doing, Lincoln Riley, is abnormal. From going from 4-8 to 11 and 3 your first year, get a Heisman Trophy winner, and now we're on track to possibly win the Pac-12 in its last year and earn a college football playoff berth. This beer is made with 5 different hops. It's got Mosaic and Citra hops. It's going to give you the grapefruit tropical fruit flavor. Also with nougat and Cascade, it's going to give you the bitterness, and it's finished off with Simcoe, which is going to give you a piney note. Oh wow, yes, it's a big beer. Be a boss, raise your game. Toast to Lincoln Riley. Happy birthday, Lincoln Riley, and go SC. Outstanding. I would pair it with a San Maria tri-tip sandwich. That's my craft beer recommend to you. Abnormal Brewing, Boss Pour. Be a boss, drink responsibly, and fight on, Trojans.